We're now going to prepare the Class 2 RPD. Okay, so we surveyed the Class 2. We went to town on this. We've really thought it out. Now remember that line I talked about? This line is going to act as a fiducial marker that will reference the cast that we've thought about to the mouth. I'm using those same planes that we talked about, that if I could orient my guide planes in the mouth to what I have on this cast, I would be in great shape. Perfect. So having found that spot on the canine meeting the lateral, if I can get a good parallelism to that plane, as well as this plane, I should be able to do some good. Okay, so I'm paralleling. Okay. Now I'm ready to make a change. So I fiducial mark one more time. Yep, double check, and then make my little reduction, little smoothing. Okay, that's going to help us have a good path of insertion for all those reasons we talked about in all the other videos. Double check, reference again, make the cut. Perfect, we'll do it again. Measure twice, cut once, do it again. That's going to be parallel to the other one, creating a nice path of insertion and nice long medium length guide planes. Do it again. Double check, looks good. Like a CAD/CAM machine, okay? Perfect. Let's get some more of these planes cut. Look at that widening out, lowering itself. But it's also becoming parallel to the other planes, creating stability amongst all the elements. Of course, I stop the drill when I touch those teeth that are not being cut. Polish, polish, polish. Okay. I'm doing this on the table. It's much easier to see in the video. It's much harder to cut on this table. You can see I have to hold this mouth mannequin from moving, but at least we can see it very clearly. Okay. Let's get one more orientation plane. Good. And we'll make our last cut there. These are the guide planes. They're all now parallel. Good, good. Double checking, triple checking. That's good. Okay, the guide planes really lead everything into place, so we need to make sure these are very accurate. There's many guide planes here because this has multiple partial edentulous spaces. Modification spaces require more guide planes. Now let's move on. Let's look at the parallelism we have here. Look at that. Okay, there's not going to be any food impingement between those. That's nice. Now let's cut rest seats. On the posterior teeth, we're going to do a 2 by 2 by 2. Okay, so I'm going to measure with my perio probe. Where's my 2 millimeter width going to be? It generally comes out to about a 2.5 once polished. The depth here is going to be about 2 millimeters. And then the depth going towards the pulp is going to also be about 2 millimeters. However, at the marginal ridge, we only go 1.5. Why? Because we want, kind of like a cane, we want to hook the tooth and have an angle that's less than 90 degrees so that as we pull down on the tooth, it doesn't move away from us. It moves straight down. Okay, so I'm going to open this up. 1.5 on the marginal ridges. Let's measure twice, cut once, double check, triple check. Okay, we have to cut teeth, just like we had to with the FPD. There's no way we can get around putting in these prosthetics without making some manipulation to the mouth. Okay, so think of this as a very conservative way to make a partial edentulous space better compared to the FPD. Tiny little reduction. Okay, 2 by 2 by 2. 1.5 at the margin, the mesomarginal ridge. Final finishing. I want to contour this so it looks like a natural part of the anatomy. Nice and smooth, no unsupported enamel. This is a rest seat that we're carving. The rest is the metal portion that will sit in that. It will be made of metal, and it has a specificity of about 1.5 at the thinnest. Okay, we'll clean up that. Let me now turn angle so you can see it from a different view, and we'll prep a different tooth so you can see it from a different angle. Okay, let's look at doing this distal marginal ridge now at 1.5. Sorry about the blurry. The TV, the camera can't do everything. Okay. How far in? 2 millimeters. Some teeth will be a little bit more or a little bit less depending on the situation. Okay, now I'm going to get my depth at 2 millimeters at the deepest. This is going to help give us that acute less than 90-degree angle to help push the teeth on an axial line rather than away from us, creating orthodontic problems. Measuring my depth at 2 millimeters. Very good. Go back and just clean it up. Smoothing it out, cleaning those edges out, depthing, increasing the depth, smoothing out those lines, so as if it was just part of the natural anatomy, so food won't get caught in there, we won't have an increased risk for decay. Okay? Good. Now let's move again. I'll try to cut this from the occlusal table so you can kind of get an idea. That's the 2 millimeter in depth. You can also look at the other preps from this view. Now this is going to be a little trickier because that canine is really encroaching on my space, so I have to nudge a little bit more towards the lingual. Have to. Can't cut into the other tooth. Okay. 2 millimeters in, 1.5 at the margin. Sorry you can't see here. Now, we are almost done. We're looking for the big reveal. Okay, starting to see a little bit of that form. I'm going to clean up the shape, depthing in depthing. Great. It needs to be smoothed out. I can still see circular forms. It needs to look like it's just the natural anatomy. Smooth as could be. 2 by 2 by 2. As it emerges off the tooth, it can go up to about 2.5 as it goes to the mesial wall. The 2 millimeters, the 2.5 millimeters. Great. Looks like it needs a little more depth and smoothing. So we'll go ahead and clean off those unsupported pieces of enamel to decrease any fracture or risk for caries. Yeah, just a little bit more right there. Okay, I've got my posterior rest cut, and we're done.